Before the Spaniard came to the Philippines, the people lived in a small town called barangays. The leader of the barangay was called a datu. Many barangay would cluster together for safety and protection. Eventually, the name Islas Filipinas would be used to cover the archipelago's Spanish possession. Before the Spanish rule established, other names such as Islas del Poniente, Island of the West, and Magellan's name for the islands. Spain had three objectives in its policy toward the Philippines, its only colony in Asia: to acquire a share in the space trade, to develop contacts with China and Japan in order to further Christian missionary efforts there, and to convert the Filipino to Christianity.
The Spanish colonial period of the Philippines began when explorer Ferdinand Magellan came to the islands in 1521 and claimed it as a colony for the Spanish Empire. The Portuguese navigator and explorer Ferdinand Magellan headed the first Spanish foray to the Philippines when he made landfall on Cebu in March 1521. A short time later, he met an untimely death on the nearby islands of Mactan. After King Philip II, for whom the islands are named, had dispatched 3 further expeditions that ended in disaster, he sent out Miguel Luis de Legazpi, who established the first permanent Spanish settlement in Cebu in 1565. The Spanish city of Manila was founded in 1571, and by the end of the 16th century, most of the coastal and lowland areas from Luzon to northern Mindanao were under Spanish control. Prayers march with soldiers and soon accomplished the nominal conversion to Roman Catholicism of all the local people under Spanish administration. But the Muslims of Mindanao and Sulu, whom the Spanish called Moros, were never completely subdued by Spain.
Spanish rule for the first 100 years was exercised in most areas through a type of tax farming imported from the Americas and known as the encomienda. But abusive treatment of the local tribute payers and neglect of religious instruction by encomenderos, or the collectors of the tribute, as well as frequent withholding of revenues from the crown, caused the Spanish to abandon the system by the end of the 17th century. The Governor-General, himself appointed by the king, began to appoint his own civil and military governors to rule directly. The Spanish accomplished little in the Philippines. They introduced Catholicism, established a walled city in Manila, but ultimately they were disappointed because they couldn't find species or gold. Gold was only discovered in large quantities after the Americans arrived. Under Spanish rule, Catholic missionaries converted most of the lowland inhabitants to Christianity. They also founded schools, a university, hospitals, and churches. To defend their settlements, the Spaniards constructed and manned a network of military fortresses across the archipelago. Slavery was also abolished.
The Spanish colonization, however, had major negative impact on the indigenous people that settled in Trinidad, such as the decrease of the population, family separation, starvation, and the loss of their culture and tradition. Some of the positive effects were universities were opened early in 1820. Only the Philippines have improved in civilization, wealth, and populousness. The establishment of schools, many schools were built. They taught them how to read, write, and speak in English. The impact of Spanish rule in the Philippines. An important impact of Spanish rule in the Philippines is the creation of mestizo culture with entrenched landed interests and highly skewed land distribution.
The Spaniards introduced Christianity or the Roman Catholic faith and succeed in the converting the overwhelming of majority of the Filipinos. At least 83% of total population belongs to the Roman Catholic faith. The American occupation was responsible for teaching the Filipino people in English language. On June 12, 1898, Emilio Aguinaldo declared the Philippines independent from Spain and proclaimed himself president. After ruling for 333 years, the Spaniards finally left in 1898 and were replaced by the Americans, who stayed for 48 years. On July 4, 1946, the Americans recognized Philippines' independence.